Alice was sitting outside when she saw a white rabbit wearing a little coat and carrying a watch. He shouted, "I'm late!" and ran past. Curious, Alice followed him and accidentally fell down a rabbit hole. But instead of getting hurt, she floated gently to the bottom. There she found a tiny door, a magic drink that made her small, and a cookie that made her tall. Soon she was exploring a silly, colorful world called Wonderland. She met a smiling cat who could disappear, a silly Mad Hatter having a never-ending tea party, and a queen who loved to yell, even when nothing was wrong. Wonderland was strange and amazing, but after many adventures, Alice woke up back on the grass, safe beside her sister. She smiled, wondering if she might visit Wonderland again someday. A mother took her 2 children, a girl and a boy, to the circus, where the girls and boys with special beautiful clothes were doing beautiful somersaults. The girl walked on a rope without any help. The mother and the children really liked this show. Then the boy came out and did magic. He put his hat on a small table and lots of little rabbits came out and ran into the audience. At the end of the day, the mother and both children were very happy. They cheered for the boy's amazing tricks and couldn't believe their eyes. The whole circus was filled with laughter and joy. As they left, the sun was setting, painting the sky with beautiful colors. They promised to come back to see more magic and fun. There was a sweet little girl who always wore a red-hooded cloak. Everyone called her Little Red Riding Hood. One day, her mother asked her to take a basket of food to her grandmother, who was sick and lived deep in the forest. Before she left, her mother told her, "Stay on the path and don't talk to strangers." As Little Red Riding Hood walked through the forest, she met a wolf. She didn't know he was dangerous. The wolf politely asked where she was going, and the girl told him she was on her way to her grandmother's house. The wolf reached grandmother's house first, sneaked inside, and locked the grandmother in a cupboard. Then he put on her clothes and got into her bed. When Little Red Riding Hood arrived, she immediately noticed her grandmother looked different. "Oh, grandmother, what big ears you have! All the better to hear you with," said the wolf. "Oh, grandmother, what big eyes you have!" "All the better to see you with," he replied. "Oh, grandmother, what big teeth you have!" "All the better to eat you with," growled the wolf, and he jumped at her. Just then, a passing woodcutter heard the girl scream. He rushed inside, chased the wolf away, and freed the grandmother. Little Red Riding Hood was safe. From that day on, she promised never to talk to strangers again, and always to follow her mother's instructions. James and Jenny were a brother and sister who lived with their father and stepmother. Their family was very poor, and the cruel stepmother convinced the father to abandon the children in the forest. James and Jenny their planned, so he dropped white stones on the path. The next day, he and Jenny followed the stones back home. But the stepmother took them into the forest again, and this time James dropped breadcrumbs, which birds ate. The children were lost. As they wandered, they found a house made of gingerbread, candy, and sugar. Hungry and tired, they began to eat it. Suddenly, an old witch came out. She invited them inside, but she planned to fatten James and cook him, and make Jenny her servant. The witch locked James in a cage and forced Jenny to help her. When the witch prepared the oven, she told Jenny to check if it was hot enough. Clever James pretended not to know how. When the witch leaned in to show her, Jenny pushed her into the oven and saved her brother. James and Jenny took the witch's treasure and found their way home. Their father welcomed them with joy, and the evil stepmother was gone. They lived happily together from then on. 3 little pigs decided one day that they should each build their own house. The first pig quickly built a house of straw, the second one of wood, and the third one worked long and built a house of solid bricks. The big bad wolf came and blew down the straw house. Scared pig run away to another brother for help. Then wolf came to wood house, and this house blew down also. Scared little pigs run for help and took refuge in the third, the brick house. No matter how many times the wolf blew, the brick house didn't collapse. All 3 pigs survived and realized that hard work and caution are the most important things. From that day on, the 3 little pigs lived happily ever after in their strong brick house. Once upon a time, the flea and the ant decided to live together in the same house. Every morning, they set off to work. The ant worked hard from dawn to dusk, collecting grains and storing food, while the flea spent the whole day jumping around, singing, and doing nothing useful. When winter came, the flea had nothing to eat. Hungry and cold, it went to the ant and said, "Dear ant, please share your food with me." But the ant replied, "All summer long I worked while you only jumped and played. If you had worked like me, you would not be hungry now." And so the flea learned too late that laziness brings nothing but trouble. Moral: hard work brings results, while idleness leads to hardship.
Once upon a time, there was a special house that could travel by car. The house was built on a large magical vehicle, and inside it lived a happy family, a mother, a father, and their 2 children. One morning, the house started its journey across the world. First, the family traveled to France, where they parked near the Eiffel Tower and ate fresh bread and cheese while watching the sunset. The children waved at people who were surprised to see a house on wheels. Next, the house drove through Italy. The family stopped near the sea, enjoyed pizza, and listened to street musicians. At night, the house glowed warmly, making everyone feel safe and at home. After that, they crossed mountains and arrived in Switzerland, where the house rested near green hills and snowy peaks. The family drank hot chocolate and told stories by the window while watching the stars. Finally, the traveling house reached Japan. The family learned about new traditions, tasted different food, and realized that even in a faraway country, their house still felt like home. Wherever the house traveled, the family stayed together, discovering that home is not a place. It is the people you love.
Father and his son made a special plan to go fishing on the river if the son got a good grade on his test at school. The son studied hard, and when he got home, he was so excited to show his father that he got a perfect A on his test. With a big smile, the happy father granted his son's wish, and they both walked to the river together, ready for an adventure. Once they got to the river, they started fishing, and suddenly the son felt a big tug on his line. Son caught a huge fish. Both the father and the son were very happy because they were having a very good time together. Once upon a time, there lived a poor couple who had no children. One day, from the ashes of their fireplace, a tiny boy magically came to life. They named him Natsaria, meaning Ashborn. Though he was small, Natsaria was brave and clever. One day, he went on a journey and met a giant who tried to trick and capture him. But Natsaria outsmarted the giant, stole his treasures, and escaped safely. He returned home with riches, and his parents lived happily ever after, proud of their clever little son born from ashes.
An air rocket that is standing on the ground is preparing to fly into the air. A cat, a dog, and a kangaroo enter the rocket through the doors. They sit in their seats, fasten their seatbelts, and prepare to fly into space. A cat, a dog, and a kangaroo flew away in space. From the window of the spaceship, the Earth became smaller and smaller as the ship moved away from the Earth rapidly. In the airship where there was cat, dog, kangaroo, they were flying in the ship. They were hungry and took out slices of pizza from the cupboard, and the slices of pizza started flying. They wanted to drink water. They water from the cupboard, opened the bottle, poured it into a glass, and water droplets began to fly. They were so surprised and happy for new experiences.
Snow White was a kind and beautiful princess. Her stepmother, the evil queen, was jealous of her beauty. When the queen asked her magic mirror who was the fairest in the land, it replied, Snow White. Furious, the queen ordered a huntsman to take Snow White into the forest and get rid of her. But the huntsman felt sorry for the girl and let her escape. Snow White wandered through the forest until she found a small cottage. It belonged to 7 dwarfs who welcomed her and let her stay with them. When the queen discovered that Snow White was still alive, she disguised herself as an old woman. She gave Snow White a poisoned apple, and after taking a bite, Snow White fell into a deep, magical sleep. The dwarfs placed her in a glass coffin because she looked as if she were only sleeping. One day a prince passed by, saw Snow White, and felt great love for her. When the piece of poisoned apple slipped from her throat, she woke up. Snow White and the prince lived happily ever after, and the evil queen was defeated. Once upon a time, in a quiet forest, there lived a tiny girl firefly named Laya. She had the weakest glow of all the fireflies and felt too shy to fly at night. One evening, a little lost rabbit began to cry in the darkness. Laya heard him, and even though she was scared, she decided to help cute Rabbit. She lit her small light and guided the rabbit through the forest until he found his family. When the other animals saw Lila's bravery, her glow suddenly became brighter than ever before. She was so happy for that. From that night on, Laya was known as the brightest firefly in the forest, not because of her light, but because of her kindness.